Good evening. Welcome to Choices Podcast. You can find us at choicespodcastofficial.com. That's our website. Or you can go on Facebook and find us at Choices Official Podcast. It's easier if you go to YouTube and you just Google podcast or search podcast, Choices Podcast, when it comes right up. They save all of our shows. YouTube is awesome. Facebook's starting to where they won't allow you to create a library. So we were using YouTube. And we'd ask you to go on our website at choicespodcastofficial.com and subscribe to our podcast, Choices. We love having you. It's a wonderful Tuesday night. Last Tuesday night, our producer, Mark, was fighting the storm in Michigan. They had a severe storm. He's going to chime in with us here in a minute. And we're going to talk about how to prepare for a storm without being a prepper. Anyways, it's going to be fun. We're going to talk about all aspects. I brought my favorite flashlight I'm going to put on my head tonight for the show. I keep it on the side of my table. And I do that in case there's a storm. Say hi to Carcass John, my partner.
Buddy.
Carcass John, how we doing? You got a song for tonight?
Doing great. Of course I have a song. In fact, it couldn't be even a more appropriate song. So it's called Prepared by Jill Scott. You ever heard of her? You should check her out. Jill Scott. She's got a great voice. Anyway, this is a song called Prepared from 2015. And it has a lot of layers. It says, I've been reading my old journals. There's your first layer. I've been reading my old journals, checking to see where my head has been. And I've been apologizing to some people, some bridges that I needed to mend. How many times have we talked about mending bridges or closing bridges and not crossing bridges? I've been eating more greens, getting my body out the line. I'm going to be super fine. I've been letting some old ideas go. I've been making room for my life to grow. I just want to be prepared. I just want to be prepared. I just want to be prepared. Getting myself ready for what's coming for me. Yeah. I am just want to be prepared. What do you think of that?
I think it's cool.
Well, and the thing about it is, a lot of people are trying to erase history. I'm a fan of history. My father has a degree in world history, and I think it's important to look back on our successes and our mistakes, because I think it's appropriate that we can learn from both. And as it relates to our subject tonight, how often do we have a big storm like, say, Katrina, and then fast forward a few years, 10 years or more, and we have a similar storm that hits them, and were those people lackadaisical, or were they prepared? Did they remember the lessons that they learned from the last time that they had this tragedy? And I think, generally speaking, you don't have to be a prepper, as you said, to be prepared. And we're going to talk about a few of those aspects.
I think that's cool. Anyways, I want to bring Mark on the show. First, I want to talk a little bit about when we had a storm hit here. I don't know if you remember when the ice storm hit. The ice storm hit 5 years ago, was it? It came through in 4 days of no electricity.
Yeah, 2020.
2020.
Is that when your house had a pipe break and flooded? And
a fire extinguisher, the fire sprinkler system froze. It broke, and my whole house was full of water in 5 minutes. Anyways, I learned and got a generator. You got to have some type of power. But I want Mark to come on and tell us about what happened in Michigan last week and give us the ultimate fact scenario that we can deal with on preparing.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it, guys. The thing You can try to be prepared all you want to, and you're never going to be 100%. But there are certain things you can be smart on, and we've done that mainly because we're up here in the cold, and the winters hit pretty hard. This year, 2025, we hit record. We hit the most snow ever in history, hit 48 hours. We've had the most snow in any one given year. We've had the longest ice storm ever recorded in history. So we've broken records. We didn't need them. Mother Nature needed to stay asleep or whatever she does and just give us the normal weather. Well, it hit us anyways, one thing after the next. And last week, we were told we were just going to get another 6 to 10 inches of snow, and we did. And then we were told it was going to get rain. And you know what happens with rain when you're at 10 degrees, 20 degrees, it freezes. And within a 36-hour time frame, we went from hardly no snow on the ground. I mean, it had a little bit, but it already melted because we'd already been into some 45, some 50 degrees. So we knew ahead of time. I have at least 6 batteries. I have Craftsman batteries that I use out in the tools in the shed in the garage. And so I had those lanterns and I had flashlights and we had things. We knew that, you know what, this is probably going to be out of power. And the moment it hit, we're talking 3 hours. It's raining and it's freezing. And when it hit right at 4 hours, boom, there goes our electrical. First night. So it rained and rained and rained for like 24 hours. It froze. All the trees froze. And it froze so fast, they've never seen it freeze in a 36 to 48 hour in its history. Never like this. And within 2 days, I think the governor said 17% of our area of trees broke in half. So I have probably 2,000 trees on my property, and I probably had 150 that fell and broke in half. And I probably had 40 to 50 that are just shattered. Like, I don't even know if they'll come back or not. So I probably lost 200 trees. And but we were prepared. We had a generator. But what you're not prepared for is things that you can't scope for. You can't think about, okay, I got batteries and I got a generator. I got this. But what kind of generator do you have? Well, we don't have a whole house. We're in an older home. We're prepared for a whole house generator, but I have a portable generator. It's a big one, and it can power everything in this house. But what we didn't prepare for was how much gas a day we were going to use. And I started to realize it's only a 6-gallon tank, and I'm using 15 gallons a day. Well, I only had 4 or 5 gallon cans. So I told my wife, I said, so we can go to propane. But if you don't do the math on propane, every 3 hours is a 20-pound bottle. Well, that doesn't seem very good. So it seems better to go gas. So we said, okay, gas, but I only have 4. So we went out and bought 8 more 5-gallon cans of gas. Well, nobody had any because everybody's out buying generators. Everybody's buying gas cans. People are waiting 2 hours to get gas. So we're like, we're going to drive 40 miles out of town. They have plenty of gas cans. Gas is no line at all. And you'll laugh at this. One guy drove up to the gas station in Traverse City, no, in Kalkaska. And here I am, 12 5-gallon gas cans. And the guy walks to me and goes, what are you doing? And I go, I'm getting gas for my generator. And he goes, well, it's just an ice storm. And I said, no. We're out of electricity. We're on a generator and it's the 3rd day. Where you been? Where are you sleeping? Well, they didn't get the ice storm 40 miles away. So they really didn't know. And he's like, oh, I didn't know it was. I said, yeah, look it up. So I showed him on Gator on my phone. And he's like, holy smokes. He goes, yeah. You need more gas than that. I go, yeah, this is just the first trip. I made 3 of those trips. That was $600. You don't prepare that for gas in 1 week. So out of power for 10 days. What I did learn, though, is less is more. You can prepare yourselves in ways that you can get closer to your family. You don't have to use as much electricity. It makes you think about turning things off that you don't need. You can use a light or a flashlight and not have to use all your lights at nighttime. You don't have to run things full time during the day. It just makes you self-conscious about and aware of what you're running because you're on a generator. So you need less power or less equipment to run less power so you can make it through the day. We figured out how to do it. So we weren't using 15 gallons a day. We got down to where we're using like 9.
You know, I've had that same experience with propane, though, that if you give it too much heat, it'll cut off, you know,
Yep.
and it's hard to figure out because for us down here, it's about how to stay cool when the storm hits,
Right.
you know.
Well, I wouldn't even have power today.
Did you have a problem with food or?
No. We again, my wife, the weather lady, she knew that we were going to have an ice storm, so we went to Traverse City, which is an hour away. We got groceries at Costco. We spent some money and got that, and then we got some locally here that we needed. We had enough to last us for a month if we needed to, so we prepared for that. We have 2 deep freezers and a refrigerator, so we're good to go. But it's all the other little stuff, right? The ancillary things that you don't really think about, right? So you can't leave anywhere, you can't go anywhere. You know, there's a line, you know, there's going to be a shortage of a lot of things. And you don't think about some of the small things like gas cans. Didn't think that nobody would have gas cans, right? Yeah. But what we really learned was at the end of the day, you know, and where I was going with that was like, we got electricity on Sunday, this past Sunday. We were out for 9 days without power. The only reason we have power right now is only for one reason. The guy that walked out to my house, we were already told we would not have power for a minimum of 3 weeks. So we've been prepared to be out until May 1st, right? And today is what, April 8th? So we figured, okay, we're going to be out for another 3 weeks. He goes, you got a lot of homes behind you. And you're at the end of the line, but you're at the first of the line as we come into your community, which is another, 300 homes behind you. We have to fix you first before we can fix the rest of them. Even though you're on the end of the line, and it's because of where they started. So they started on my end, and he's like, well, you got 2 poles down your property. I got to fix those 2 poles in order to fix that pole. I can't fix that pole because that pole before it and after it's broken. So I have to fix you first. So you're getting electricity today. And I was like, seriously? He's like, yeah, you're getting it today. I'll have it done before 10 o'clock tonight. I was like, sure enough, 9:05, power went on. And we're like, yes. But
you don't realize how much you count on it till you lose it.
I was just about to say that. And the other kicker of that, I hope you don't rely on internet too much. The reason I have internet is because we have Starlink, but there is a fiber internet out here from TrueStream. It'll be 3 months before they'll even get to it. They got to fix all the electricity and the framework first before they'll even come back and work on the internet. So people that don't have internet won't have it for 3 months.
You know, it's funny because ice does as much damage as fire. That's what I think. Ice is a silent, oh my God, boom, you're done. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And I'm not even done yet because the ice that tore 2 limbs off fell on my line. I did not know until Sunday when they were fixing it. I didn't know it even ripped from the house because you can't see up there. It's 2 stories tall, but it pulled the eyelet. Well, he can't put the eyelet back on because it ripped it. So I got a guy coming on Thursday, and they're going to put me a new piece of wood and everything 2 feet higher and remount that. So that's going to be some money to spend. But the house hasn't been done since 1971. And that piece of wood is only like, really, it's only like 5 inches by 5 inches. The code now is like 12 by 12. So they got to cut my whole side of the house, 12 inches each, put a new piece of pressure treated wood in there, and then put a whole new eyelet. Then I got to call the electrical company to come out and redo the line because it's not high enough. It's within 4 inches from hitting my shed out there, and it's got to be another foot higher. But if he does this, it'll put me at 2 feet high. You just don't think about those things until after it's all said and done.
And I don't think pestering an electric company works here in Dallas.
Doesn't work here either.
No.
It don't work here either.
It really doesn't. We have a lot of construction around us, and then of course we have the frequent spring storm, which are extremely violent, and they pop up. They're I think it's almost worse the tornadic thunderstorm because they pop up and they're on you before you can have a chance to really react. But we have a lot of construction going on, and we have frequent outages. And I'm on a co-op that's singular to not all. It's not one of these big companies like Encore or whatever. And they send out notifications. Provided you have a mobile phone, they'll send out a notification. They'll say, "We're aware of the problem," and then they tell us that the power's back on. If your power's not back on, please contact us. So it slows that constant barrage of phone calls that, hey, my power's out. But I've learned a couple of things. My parents had enough food storage and water saved up for 2 years for a family of 6, or 4 or 5 kids and 2 parents, so 7. And I got used to rotating through food, like my refrigerator, my beer fridge, because I don't drink beer. Out there, every time I get a plastic milk jug, I fill it full of water. I rinse it out, fill it full of water, and it's got a date on it. So I know that water is dated, and I rotate through.
You're a full-time prepper.
I'm not a prepper.
Yeah, you are.
But I will tell you that what is after you don't have electricity, you don't have internet. What's the first? There are 2 things that people don't realize they need: toilet paper and water. And those are the easiest things to stock up on besides food. But I'm telling you, you go 4 or 5 days without washing your hands or face because you don't have water, or flushing the toilet because you don't have water. That's a big problem.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, when we had this thing going on, I was listening to, really listening to some people in the Facebook groups that were commenting about how they lost their freezer and deep freezing their food and everything, but they had a generator. But some people sometimes don't pay attention that, look, if you want power in your house, take your generator and an extension cord and plug in your deep freeze to it. Most of them can handle it. Maybe not your deep freezer, refrigerator, and your microwave, but it'll handle. And you can cycle through things. A freezer can last 18 to 24 hours with no power. A refrigerator can last 4 hours. So if you think about cycling, we did the same thing on our big generator. We couldn't run the water heater. It takes so much power to run our water heater that I had to turn everything else off. Because if my well pump started at the same time as my water heater was on, it would shut down because it can't handle the load. I only have a 50 amp, even though I have a 2 amp service, but my generator can only handle up to 50 amps. Well, it's 29, 32 amps or something just for the water heater. And then another 20 amps just for the well pump. So that kicks on, boom, it's done. But I was like, you can go down the street and buy a generator. There were stores like Lowe's and Home Depot didn't go down that much.
Well,
you
people
can still get generators.
Because they have backup power, Mark.
Yeah, well,
they know that this is the type of thing when the fur hits the fan that they're going to make a fortune.
Not all of them. Home Depot did not have power. They had generators. They ran power just to have. Yeah. They didn't have a battery backup.
So,
okay.
But what I'm hearing you say too is to have a plan.
Absolutely.
Don't be hit by a storm and not know. I have to look at my generator. I check it once a week to make sure the green light's on.
Yep.
The first storm that we had, I was a knucklehead, and I had all my air conditioning on throughout the house. Everything was. I didn't know any better.
Right. You just ran it.
I'm a lawyer. I ain't a power dude.
Well, you were trying to be normal.
You're not a prepper.
Yeah, I'm not a prepper. Anyways, I learned. My wife taught me because she's like the maintenance person around here, and she does all the fixing and she does all the look. Here's the deal: we keep the lower air on the first floor. This unit, the rest of them don't need to be on.
Correct. Heat rises, so you're good.
Yeah, and then she would handle all of that. It was like the generator didn't have a hard time because what happens? You try to sleep through this is when you overload the generator, it goes.
Yep.
At 3 o'clock in the morning, you can never sleep because it gets on and off. And
the thing is, and Mark, you probably were fully aware of this because you just experienced it. But guess what? You might have to sacrifice some of the conveniences in order to get a good night's rest
100%.
in order to, and there are a ton of little things, like they say, pennies make dollars. There's a ton of little things that you can do that not only save power, but save draw on your generator. Like you just said, Brett, like Sanka said, shut the second floor down and we'll stay on the first floor. And that cut your power consumption in half.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting when you said that, and Brett was kind of hinting on it. Excessive power from a generator. If you don't cut down, people that even go buy home house generators, like one of my friends in Joburg here, he has only a 10 kilowatt generator, but his house needs 30 because he's got a 3,600 square foot house. And if he runs just 2 or 3 things, so his thing can only run certain plugs, right? Yeah. Well, I have a big generator. Don't get me wrong. It's 12,000 watts. We're not using probably maybe 3,000, 4,000 at any given time, but it's when you add all your devices up at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the critical part people don't get about buying generators. You never want to be more than 50% using the power. So if you're only using 10 kilowatts, then you buy a 20 kilowatt. You don't go buy a 12 because then your generator is running 3/4 all the time just to produce normal stuff. You want the long last. And here's how I figured it out the other day. 2 people I watched go buy generators, and on the 4th day, running 24/7, they didn't do it right, one of them. The other one did not change the oil, and it froze up. I changed mine because mine's electronic. So mine tells me I can go to 100 hours, but it starts to alert me that in 50 hours, I got to change the oil. At 100 hours, or actually about 99, it shuts down. It'll just turn off. And that happened to us. And I was like, what the heck? I'm looking. I see this P100 code, and I'm like, what? I had to go do a search, and I have no internet because the generator's off. And I'm looking. I go, oil change. Seriously, oil change? I got no oil. So what am I doing at 10 o'clock the next morning? So we went without power. I had to go to O'Reilly's, go get oil, and then come back and change the oil. It's so sensitive. It knew I changed the oil. So you know what I did? Every 50 hours, I changed the oil. Yes, overkill. But my generator's got 378 hours on it, and it looks brand new.
Yeah. I think you gotta learn with your stuff. And if you don't have a backup, you're asking for trouble. You're betting on, down here, you're betting on, okay, the storm's not going to be that bad, and I'll be up and running in 24 hours. And I just don't think that's smart this day and time. Not with
well, that's the thing. So as I was talking to a buddy even today, generators are made for temporary. When you're having to go through something like an ice storm and you're using it 24/7, they're not made for that. So
okay. Here's what I want to do, and then we're going to play a game.
Okay.
The don'ts. The don't do on the prepping part. What is like crazy that if you're preparing, you don't need to do?
Don't flush the toilets too much.
Yep.
I think, oh my God.
I'm going to tell you a story and you're not going to like it, but we were without during one of these hurricanes, it might've been Gilbert down in Houston. We were without water and power, and the tank in the toilet, the tank is clean water. The toilet, obviously, in the bowl is not clean water. Well, I made instant mashed potatoes with the tank toilet water.
Is that why they call it potable?
Yes. And so, but we were hungry. I had two young kids, and they were hungry. And I thought, well, and I checked it because I was all about the water, the water sources and the water table and the chemical makeup. In fact, I know you went to Texas Tech, Brett, and man, their water is among the worst, most contaminated in the state. But I would check my water, I would run it, and I wouldn't just randomly dip into the toilet tank. But I'm telling you, desperate times require extreme conditions, require extreme responses. And when the 3 and the 5-year-old don't understand.
Listen,
they flip the switch and it doesn't work, and they're hungry.
Right.
And so, but what you don't do is you don't panic.
Oh yes,
correct.
That's going to be my slogan for this whole show, and I'm going to say it now. You have to be the calm in the eye of the storm.
Agreed.
You gotta be the calm in the eye of the storm.
There is a part when you get into the eye of the storm, especially for my wife and I, we're out here by ourselves. We finally just said, it is what it is. I mean, you got a generator. 80% of the Gaylord residents don't have it, and they're suffering because they didn't prepare. They have no generator. They're out of power. They don't have internet. So, a lot of people were bashing people for not knowing, but you got to think about it. If they don't have internet and they have none internet to begin with, how are they going to know? I mean, all of our companies are putting out text messages and emails, and if you don't have it, you don't know, so you don't get any updates. So then all of a sudden you get internet, and you're like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? And you just don't know. So there is knowledge to that.
Dude,
there's experience.
When the ice storm hit, I'm pissed. I'm like, okay, this is bad, right? Well, there, my neighbor has got their Christmas lights on, playing music. And I'm asking Senka, I go, what the hell's going on next door? Well, they got a generator. You didn't want to get one. I'm like, oh, yeah.
I'm getting it now.
Putting my nose in it now.
Yeah.
So one of your do not do's, Brett, is do not forget the lessons of the past.
Yes.
Do not assume that, well, we had one of those 5 or 10 years ago. It's not going to happen again.
Yeah.
It's going to happen again.
Yeah.
So there is a dude that I even had a conversation off the air with Brett just about 2 weeks ago. And that was about computers not having battery backups. And I said, I got 12 in my house. I got 13 now. But everything I have, TVs, my computer, monitor, they all have a battery backup. I have learned my lesson that the power goes out, you lose everything.
Carcass?
Sir? How many battery backups? How many battery backups do I have?
Yeah.
7.
You got eight more to go.
Well, I mean, I have it on the import stuff.
There you go.
That's really what you need.
So in our house in Virginia Beach, we let my wife had one of her relatives stay there. He, dude, is a prepper. Ooh. I mean, like, they're coming. He backs his car up, wanting to know he can. Hey, Carcass, you back your car up?
Yes, sir. I surely do.
Huh?
I surely do have a backup camera. Why not? Backup. You can see when you're pulling out into traffic, you can see it much better if you're facing it rather than trying to back into it.
Carcass.
You're darn right at backup.
He had a axe by the door, more than one axe. He couldn't hardly pick it up. He had but when we got to the garage is when it got psycho. All the guns, and I've got my share, all the bullets, and then he had this military can full of gallon lighter fluid, gallons of it. I'm like, this is a walking bomb, dude. You're going to blow up this house. It was like, and then it's like, okay, Carcass, you ain't ready for this. It's going to upset you.
Fire away.
He had the gallon cans of green beans.
Yep.
Bags of pinto beans.
Sure.
Gallon cans of just everything. 20 of them.
Yeah. And when you're hungry, Brett, what are you going to eat?
Dude, if it comes down on us, it's going to be gone so fast, you ain't going to have time to eat out of that gallon can.
Well, you know what? I just had this discussion with one of the cats that I work out with in the morning. Now that I'm hitting the gym on a regular basis, we started talking about this, like what would be more important to you? Because it started off as a conversation about the economy, about all I see on the news is how terrible the economy is and how everyone's broken. I went to the mall Saturday and I saw thousands and thousands of people with multiple bags in their hand walking around the mall. I didn't see a terrible economy. I saw a booming economy. And so I said, and so one of the guys said, well, maybe they're panicking because they're anticipating the economy is going to take a pill and plummet, and so they're out buying stuff. Now I'm asking you both: are you out buying a pair of fancy new stitched up jeans and a pair of Air Jordans right before the downfall of your money, or if you have it, well, I mean, what are you going to invest your money in?
It ain't gonna be in the market.
That's
No,
correct.
but commodities are what's going to be your saving grace. Water, food, ammo. And I know that sounds crazy, Brett, but I'm telling you right now, you're going to get thirsty, and you're going to want to flush your toilet, and you're probably not going to want some more of my instant toilet tank mashed potatoes.
I'd probably drink it and eat it. Yeah. If you have to, you have to.
You're not from South Irving, no. That whole potato deal
I'm
didn't.
from North Irving, so
Yeah, you're from North Irving. Well, y'all ate steaks all the time. We were eating beans and rice.
So, but the thing is you cannot forego the lessons of the past.
Okay.
It's difficult for me to have sympathy for, and I have sympathy for everybody, even the people that I don't like, because I don't wish any ill on anybody.
Oh, quit being nice.
No, I'm being nice.
I know you're always nice, Marcus. Be real.
But I don't have any sympathy for you if you completely ignored things of the past.
I agree. Okay,
So,
here's the game. Y'all ready?
Right.
We're going to fire shoot on the what to do. You got to answer quick.
Batteries.
Where?
Batteries for your flashlight.
your nightstand, your mud room, your mechanical room, living room.
I like, whoa, what happened here? I like having these flashlights, these head flashlights next to my bedside table.
Okay.
I like putting it on my head. I learned that from duck hunting.
Gotcha.
Next. Go, Mark.
Check these out. They've got a light that faces you, or a light that goes there, or a light that goes there. $2.
Where'd you get that at, Carcass?
I got it at what's the tool place?
Harbor Tools?
Harbor Freight.
Harbor Freight.
Yeah. $2.
Yeah.
And it takes one AA battery, and they last 12 hours if you turn them on. And they have a hook that you can hang them. They have a magnet on the back, so you can stick it on a refrigerator or something.
Awesome.
$2. And so every time I go to Harbor Freight, I buy a handful of these things because, and maybe that's crazy, but
no,
$2.
Because I think of anything I've heard tonight, I love you got to have, how about candles? Candles.
No, candles are, I mean, it depends. I mean, if you don't have anything,
animals.
What?
Candles are bad if you have animals.
Yep.
Because they'll bump into them, they'll knock them over. You got to be really careful.
Yep.
But
preparing for a fire.
Not a bad idea either.
It's not, but we wouldn't run a candle, not during an ice storm.
You know what else I have out and back in my house? I have a chimenea. You know what that is, Brett?
Yeah.
A little fireplace.
Okay. I have a little fireplace back there. I could actually cook something. I could start a fire and stay warm. If somehow my gas gets cut off, I have a gas fireplace. So that's how we would stay warm if we had no power.
So you're going to laugh, but short story, but similar to your toilet thing, 5 years ago when we had a freeze and we didn't know, we didn't have a generator or nothing to do. We took ice and snow outside, put it in buckets and in tin can buckets. And I used my barbecue grill to heat up to get water to flush the toilets.
What's wrong with that? That's
we need to go to the bathroom. I mean, at least once or twice a day, right? So I think what you do, you guys all said it, food, batteries, making sure you're prepped for that, for toilet paper and things. Water.
Yeah.
You do become aware of being conscious about what you're going to use. Power, whether it's batteries or whether you've got a generator. You have to be conscious about things that you use on a daily basis. You can consume and cut down to generate for a longer term.
Hey, Carcass, what about this idea on the water? what if you get cases of water like we drink out of here all the time, and then you put the oldest on the top? How would you do that?
You put the oldest on the
I
top.
just mark it with a date.
Oh yeah,
Sharpie, man.
yeah. Mark it with the date and just keep plenty of it in the house all the time. 'Cause
My whole life, Brett, I grew up, and my parents aren't nuts. They're just regular people, but they wanted to be prepared. And my dad, being in the service, was never home, and he wanted to make sure that we were all fully aware of what to do in the time of an emergency.
Well, what if your thought is you take, like Brett's saying, you take a case or 2 cases of water, and your mind is set that that's for preparation for something that could happen. So you go set it off to the side. When do you go back and check that to make sure that you
check it once a month?
Just keep your oldest.
You check it once a month. You take the old one, you use it, and you put a new one back underneath the stack.
Get 10 cases of water and take the oldest off the top, replace it. You know?
Well, so
or even put another row beside it.
So we were talking about food, water, but food is another important thing. And sometimes it's the value in preparing for something like a disaster is making sure you have food that can last. So we had crackers, we had chips, we had things that can last 10 years that don't go bad, that can just sit up on the shelf. So we have those. Now, me being a previous post-cancer, I still eat a lot of this stuff. So I have to stock up on a lot of foods in it. So we had tons of crackers and things. So there are things you can get that can get you through the long term of things.
Well, cool. Y'all, this show's been fun.
It's different than what your normal show is, but
people need to listen to it.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, if I had any final result on anything, it's just being smart and conscious about what if you know ahead. Yeah, if you know that you've got a storm coming, whether it's a tornado or an ice storm or anything, be smart, prepare for it. Like, for example, soon as our power came back on, that was Sunday night. Monday, what did I do? I went out and changed the oil in the generator. I filled up the gas tank. I got all my batteries charged. I got everything that I know, because I have specific batteries that are in my mechanical room that are just sitting there waiting, so that when we have that storm, we can pull them off the charger and use them when we need them. So I'm ready to go. If it happens again, I'm ready to go. And I've still got half my gas sitting out there. I'm ready to go.
Good to have a chainsaw around too, in case trees fall down the street.
Yeah, I had to go buy a new one.
Here's another thing that you need to think about.
Hit me, Carter.
I live in a neighborhood that's near an elementary school and right down the street from a fire station. My chances of losing power are the chances are less that I lose power because of those two things. And
agreed.
But people across the street from me, right directly across the street, had no power. Half the neighborhood had power, half the neighborhood didn't have power. And so you have to be ready to maybe, you remember that last time we had this ice storm, Brett, you remember that 100 some odd car pileup on 35 South headed towards Fort Worth?
Yeah.
It was devastating. I mean, multiple casualties, multiple dozens of injuries, more than 100 cars involved, because like it did up in Michigan, it rained, it froze, and then carnage ensued. And I knew 4 firefighters that worked that for 36 straight hours, went home, and their apartment was frozen solid. It was 19 degrees inside their apartments because they didn't have power. And so what was I to do? I said, come on over, get a hot shower, I'll feed you, and then you can do whatever you need to do, even if it's sleep on the floor. We have to sort of be mindful of not just ourselves,
right?
But we got to be prepared to help others too, because there will be a need.
I agree, Carcass.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Sometimes it's hard to do those things. I mean, Kim and I, it worked out for the lady, but we had a mother and her daughter didn't have a place to stay, but they couldn't get out of their property. Finally, when we read that she got out of her property, she didn't have a place to stay because nobody would take her in. And we have a guest room. But by the time I got with her on direct message on Facebook to tell her we have a room for you to come and stay in, she'd found a place. So we were prepared to have somebody here for several days just so they could take a shower, and because we could do all those, we had to cycle through it, but we could help.
Well, it's a scary situation because we get like you said, Brett. You don't realize how much you rely on electricity, how much you rely on the internet, how much you rely on your car starting without a problem.
Well, I learned how to empty the fire sprinkler system before the storm comes.
Oh, never thought of that.
Yeah, then you fill it back up.
So is yours water?
Yeah.
Okay. Because some people have that additive or whatever, and it's different.
All right, guys. So tonight's quote is always be calm in the eye of the storm. Who wrote that? Let's give it to the firefighters. Unknown. He wrote that.
Okay.
Anyways, you guys, we love you. We hope you learned a little bit. I know I did. I'm going to go down and start talking to my wife about bringing cases of water home.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, awesome. You contributed, Mark. You made a bad into a good. Y'all have a good night.
All right.
Peace out.